Welcome to Monday, July 10th, 2023. Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Well, it got busy again late last week and especially through Saturday with more showers and thunderstorms along and east of the Continental Divide, with more severe weather being reported and more photos like that one coming on in from those thunderstorms. However, as we get the week started here, there's less thunderstorm activity coming for this region. I don't want to say no thunderstorms, but we'll definitely see a decrease here for a bit. Temperatures are going to be warmer as well, as drier air is going to reduce thunderstorm activity, and there's going to be more of a north and eastward shift of the thunderstorms this week. It's going to be more towards the plain states, more towards the midsection of the country where the more active thunderstorms are going to be for a few days before kind of shifting back towards us again as we get towards the weekend and early next week. The monsoon moisture flow is starting to show up in the desert southwest. For you folks down in New Mexico and Arizona, you are going to see some thunderstorms this week and needed rain coming. It's kind of off to a very late start, but here it is finally, and we're going to see that as a bit more of a factor. We'll be talking more in the coming weeks about the monsoon moisture flow coming up from Mexico and Central America into the southwestern and eventually the western United States. Temperatures are going to be warmer. Yes, it may actually feel more like summer in many areas after what has been a cool start to July for some of you. The western slope has been off to a hot, dry start in July, but east of the Divide, certainly a different story. We do see that Hudson Bay low that we talked about last week sending more cool air east of the Divide by the weekend. So although we are going to warm up, we will see the weekend temperatures get throttled back a little bit. And we will also start to see in Utah and Colorado some of that monsoonal moisture getting in next week. The western slope of Colorado into parts of the Great Basin west of the Divide is still going to be drier for a bit longer, but maybe some of that monsoon comes in mid next week, and we'll show you that as we go forward here. As we said earlier, lots of dark skies, heavy thunderstorm activity Friday and Saturday in many areas before we certainly saw a decrease in the activity yesterday. You can see in the satellite photo this morning, there's not a lot going on in the central and western areas of the United States. You may have been hearing about in the news about the flooding in Pennsylvania and New York from heavy thunderstorm activity as a strong cold front went up through those areas, but a little bit more of a settled pattern. And if we look at the water vapor telling a pretty strong story of drier air in the orange here and the red. This red and orange area right here, the air is dried out considerably. Then you hit the moisture with that front in the east. You also see little pockets of moisture, though, still in the west, but it's certainly not as moist as it's been. Then down here in Mexico, here's that monsoon moisture flow getting a little bit further north now, and this will expand and drift slowly northward here in the coming days, getting those thunderstorms going in the southwestern United States. And there's the high in New Mexico, and into West Texas, the clockwise flow, drawing that subtropical air northward into the southwestern United States. And there's that low again. And we showed you this last week. It hasn't moved, and honestly, it's barely going to move at all. But this high pressure is nosing a little more north. That's why it's going to be warmer. And that's why the more active thunderstorm activity is going to be directed right here, as this high is going to make it a little bit warmer. Drier air getting entrained up here as well, going to dry things out a little bit, while the cooler weather will be towards the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the East, with the heat along the south. Temperature-wise, this is by noon tomorrow. By noon tomorrow, you can see along the front range of the Rockies, both sides of the Divide, there's a fair amount of orange there, so it is going to be warmer. But look at that cool air up here in Canada, south of Hudson Bay, in the Dakotas, along the northern tier there. Temperatures are going to be well below average due to that low up there in Hudson Bay. As we go through the week, though, we'll see temperatures kind of like this as we go into tomorrow, as we go into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Nobody really in the Rockies or the high plains getting hot. In fact, the northern plains a little bit on the cool side. Precipitable water, going to kind of tell the story of where the thunderstorms are going to be. Drier air, as I showed you in the satellite imagery right there. But notice the green down here in Mexico, off the Baja, then getting up into Arizona here. So here is that monsoonal moisture that will feed thunderstorms. We'll also see low-level moisture along and east of the divide today. So there's going to be some shower and thunderstorm activity in that area there. But the more severe weather directed more towards the Midwest, more towards the nation's midsection. May have a little bit of heavier thunderstorm activity in parts of southwest Montana today. But you can see west of the divide, very dry air. General thunderstorms getting down into here now. As we look at the thunderstorm forecast, this is for late this afternoon and evening. So you can see eastern Colorado into Nebraska, parts of northeastern Wyoming and Montana getting into the act across the northern plains. And then look at this down here, those thunderstorms finally showing themselves. Now this is by midnight tonight. The thunderstorms kind of get organized late this afternoon and evening, then overnight. We could see a cluster of thunderstorms for you folks in northwest and north central Kansas, south central areas of Nebraska. And then those thunderstorms will drift off to the south and east and dissipate during the day tomorrow. Now this is for Tuesday. Deeper monsoonal moisture flow coming into here, but there is a bunch of drier air right here, a little arch coming on through. So that will keep parts of the western slope drier. Thunderstorms out here, a little bit more of an eastward shift on Tuesday, and there you can see where the thunderstorms Tuesday will be. And this is by Tuesday afternoon with the thunderstorms. This is by Tuesday night. So thunderstorm activity Tuesday, a little less spotty, growing and expanding northward here in Arizona and western New Mexico. Then as we get into tomorrow night, another cluster of organized thunderstorms goes across central and eastern Nebraska into Iowa, bringing rain to the Corn Belt. As we go into the severe weather risk, this is for Wednesday, more towards the Corn Belt and the Midwest. Notice more general thunderstorms here. So we're not going to eliminate thunderstorms, but we're certainly going to see less. The focus will now be more in the southwest United States and towards the nation's midsection. Now this is by Saturday. By Saturday, the Hudson Bay low actually drops a little south. So you know what that means? Yep. Cool air gets banked up against the Rockies again, while the high shifts more towards California. So that's where the heat's going to be. But a lot of the U.S., from the east slopes of the Rockies through the Great Lakes in the Midwest, is going to cool off. And that's going to bring shower and thunderstorm activity by Saturday. This is by Saturday. Look at that. We've got another cold front backed up against the high plains and Rockies again. So we're going to basically see the cycle get going. As we cool off, the air gets more moist. We get that upslope, and then you're going to get a more active thunderstorm pattern returning to the front range areas by the weekend. Now, 10 days out, notice the monsoonal moisture is deeper now into the Great Basin, into parts of Utah, into parts of Wyoming, getting some more moisture in the western slope of Colorado, the Four Corners region here, and you're going to see more in the way of that monsoonal moisture for Colorado's western slope as we get to the early to middle parts of next week. So for you folks in western Colorado, towards the early, but especially the middle parts of next week, you're going to start to see your monsoonal thunderstorms get going. Have yourself